Hey everyone, this is James from Ruin Books. So this is the second video in the Tolkien discussion series. And today we will be looking at the Tolkien concepts of DragonTalk and DragonSickness. I have always come across quite a number of people who somehow seem to confuse the two terms as being one and the same. Moreover, with the Hobbit trilogy film adaptation, this distinction between these two terms seems to have almost completely disappeared. So, to start off with, DragonTalk or Dragon Spell was almost a psychological effect produced by Smaug on Bilbo during their conversation in the Lonely Mountain. Through the deceiving words of the dragon and his hypnotic stare, by means of a roving eye, the beholder and the listener is subjected to a strong malevolent influence that twists facts and reality. The listener is forced to listen and to believe the lies that are spoken by the dragon, and this in turn causes damage to both the victims and anyone around them. Now a nasty suspicion began to grow in his mind. That is the effect that DragonTalk has. We find a similar example, for instance, in the Silmarillion, when Glaurung, the great worm unleashed by Morgoth, causes havoc in Túrin's already cursed life. The dragon's spell works successfully on both the hero and his sister Nienor, causing the two to eventually spiral down into madness and cause severe repercussions to each other and everyone around them. Her will strove within him for a while, but he put forth his power, and having learned who she was, he constrained her to gaze into his eyes, and he laid a spell of utter darkness and forgetfulness upon her. Now, dragon sickness is somewhat different. Victims are indirectly influenced by a dragon through the use of treasure. One can almost say that the power of greed can be easily absorbed from a pile of gold itself. But the added effect of a dragon's influence upon that hoard of gold appears to multiply and further increase the lust and intense greed for claiming that treasure. The prime example in The Hobbit is of course its effect upon the character of Thorin Oakenshield and his inability to see reason. He did not reckon with the power that gold has, upon which a dragon has long brooded, nor with dwarvish hearts. However, just like DragonTalk, DragonSickness also appears heavily dependent upon its victim. In both cases, Bilbo never succumbs to these influences. And in fact, we are told that for him, the effect of gold soon wore off. Yet in the sentence just quoted, that lust which is already kindled in a dwarf's heart is ultimately what enhances the effect of dragon sickness. Just like the One Ring itself, the power and influence it has on its victims relies very much with their own inner weaknesses and strengths in the face of these external temptations. Being of the kind that easily catches such disease, he fell under the dragon sickness and took most of the hold and fled with it. In a scene reminiscent to Thorin's and the other dwarves' reaction, when they return to the Lonely Mountain and witness the treasure hoard in front of them, it almost mirrors a brief event that occurs in the Silmarillion, which unfolds in a very similar way when once again the great worm Glaurung has left the fortress of Nargothrond and the gold behind. Min the petty dwarf had found his way to Nargothrond and crept within the ruined halls, and he took possession of them and sat there fingering the gold and the gems, letting them run ever through his hands. And while this may not be a direct reference to dragon sickness, the similarities are difficult to miss or ignore. So on the one hand we have DragonTalk, the ability to be influenced by a dragon's speech and power, and to sway a victim's heart and mind to act and think differently from their own self. And on the other, we have dragon sickness, which is a lust and a greed that is brought about by exposing oneself to treasure or gold, especially when a dragon has left its lasting influence upon it. And that is basically the distinction between dragon sickness and DragonTalk. So I hope that this brief video may have cleared up some misconceptions among some of the readers out there about these two terms and how different and in a way similar they are to each other. In the meantime, I'm really interested in hearing your opinions about this and suggestions you might have about future topics to be discussed. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.